Welcome, bent riders around the world. My name is Gary Solomon, and you're watching the Laidback Bike Report BentCon 2020. Well, we're glad to have you all with us today. If you have the need for speed, this is your BentCon 2020. We're going to talk about fast recumbents, and we have a bunch of people on to tell you all about that. Let me tell you about what the webcast is all about today. The BentCon 2020 is something that we created to be a virtual recumbent convention consisting of 4 webcasts, and this is number 3. Now, each show has a theme and is set up as if you were attending an event to learn more about and perhaps even buy a recumbent bike, trike, or velomobile. So now our theme today, as I said, is buying a fast or racing bent, and here's how it's set up. First of all, we have our first segment, which we like to think of as a racing bent seminar, where we have guests who will tell you all about their ideas and experiences with racing or fast recumbents. We have a full panel of experts for you, and I think maybe this is a good time to introduce those guys to you before we move along. So let's do that. Larry, bring everybody on up. There we go. First of all, from Alfred Station, New York, our buddy, the Bicycle Man, it's Peter Stull. Hi, Peter.
Hi, glad to be here.
It's great to have you again. We also have from Bent Up Cycles in Hollywood, California, a guy who not only is a shop owner, but has participated in many ultra races, including Ram. It's our buddy, Dana Lieberman. Hiya, Dana.
Hey, Gary. How you doing? It's good to be here again.
Great to have you. And back with us once again, we're very glad to have the co-owner of Rose City Recumbents from Portland, Oregon. It is Jonathan Garcia. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Okay. And great to have you with us, Jonathan. Down in Big D, Dallas, Texas, the owner of Bicycle Evolution. It's our buddy, Mr. Wizard, Doug Davis. Hi, Doug.
Hey, Gary, good to be here.
And great to have you, of course. And Cold Spring, Kentucky is where you're going to find the co-editor of Bent Rider Online. Once again, Larry Varney. Hi, Larry.
Hi, everybody. I'm here underneath the magic tree.
Great. And we're glad to have you with us, Larry. And with me today as crew, a couple of guys that make the show run. And first of all, Larry Seidman out in Colorado Springs, our director today. Hiya, Larry.
Hi, Gary, and everybody else.
And Larry may chime in also on the expert panel because he knows a little something about our subject. And also down near Jackson, Mississippi, our media guy, it is Trey Burgoyne. Hey, Trey.
Howdy, everyone.
All right. So thanks, everyone, for being with us. So, yes, back to me, if you would. We are going to have that seminar with those guys talking about fast or racing recumbents in our first segment. Then segment 2 will be where our manufacturers make their appearances. Now, these will be set up like booths that you would visit at an event. And most of the major manufacturers in the bent industry are with us today, mostly via video. And we have one actually live with us. They will have 5 minutes to pitch the 1 or 2 products that they feel are best suited for this racing bent that we are looking for today. So let me tell you about who we have with us today. We have Hans Agala from AZUB. Bacchetta Cycles, Mark Swanson put something together for us. Doug, of course, put together a video for Bicycle Evolution, going to tell us about velomobiles. Mark Eglin put together a video from Catrike. Jim Parker sent us a video from Cruzbike. Tori Grun from Greenspeed. Heiko Trouble, like I said, will be with us a little later on live talking about HP Velotechnik's entry. Patrick Selwood from Ice Trikes in Cornwall, England. He sent us a video. And Marshall Randall from TerraTrike. They will have an entry via video as well. So that's our second segment. I think you'll enjoy those. Lots of great information there. And then finally, our third segment is our prize and giveaway segment. I think you're going to really enjoy that. We started that last week. We have a little bit more in the way of prizes this week. So after the manufacturers are done, the live viewers, and actually this week we're going to allow the viewers who come after to participate, and they have a chance to win some great prizes and some swag from these participating manufacturers, who are Ice Trikes, Catrike, and TerraTrike has contributed this week as well. So we're really glad to have their participation. So I'm going to just tell you right now, pay very close attention to the videos from those three for sure. Pay close attention to all of them, but from Ice and Catrike and TerraTrike, pay close attention to those videos, and you will see some questions that we will ask that pertain to those videos, something that they have said that we're going to ask about. And if you answer the questions correctly, you can be in line for some great prizes, which we'll tell you about when we get to that segment. So that should do it for our third segment. And that will be our show. So if you want to participate in our live chat, the best way to do that is on YouTube, to look a little bit over to this side of the screen. I might have done that backwards. And if you're on mobile, I know it's below there. Facebook, just comment on the live video post that you see there, and we'll be able to see it here and respond to it. Now, in that live chat, you can ask us questions, you can make comments, you can ask the manufacturers questions, who may also be online with us right now. Many of them are, or just chat among yourselves if you like. So please participate in the live chat. Now, if you'd like to support the Laidback Bike Report and BentCon 2020, you can do that by liking us on Facebook, subscribing to us on YouTube. Click that little I right up there. You'll be able to, that will take you right to our website, which will give you a lot more information, including being a Patreon supporter for as little as $1 a month. We would really appreciate that. You can see the Patreon supporters right here on the screen behind me. There is a new applaud button on YouTube right over here by the thumbs up, thumbs down. You can click that and pop us a few bucks there. And there are super chats and super stickers on YouTube as well, as you guys probably know. So any of those things are fine, or just watch and answer the phone, Doug, if you could. All right. Let me tell you about the sponsors of today's BentCon 2020. We have Kelvin Clark from Angletech, Tim Seagard from Bent Revolution, Dana Lieberman is our sponsor from Bent Up Cycles, Doug Davis, Bicycle Evolution, Peter Stull, the Bicycle Man, Dave Hendricks at Connecticut Yankee Peddler, Easy Street Recumbents in Austin and Easy Street Recumbents in Fort Worth, and Brianna Vandehey from the Hostel Shop, Larry Hobbs, Jersey Bents, Mickey O'Brien, Laidback Cycles, Scott Burrows at Lancaster Recumbent, Andrew Blankenship, Trailside Trikes, and Mel Berger at Recumbent PDX. Thank you so much to our wonderful retail recumbent bike shop sponsors for supporting this BentCon. All right, guys, let's get into it with our panel. Larry, if you want to bring our panelists up on the screen, please. Thank you. And we're going to start with a very basic question. I'm going to ask, I think we'll start with Jonathan, if we could, and ask about why someone would want a fast recumbent anyways. I know many of our viewers don't really care about going fast, but some of them do. why would you even want a fast recumbent, Jonathan? Jonathan, where is Jonathan? Well, I think maybe we will ask Dana. I think we did lose Jonathan for a minute here. Dana, could you help us out with that? Why would you want a fast recumbent?
I guess Jonathan was going a little too fast.
Yes.
I guess the question to me would be, why would you want a slow recumbent? But no, seriously, in terms of performance, I see a lot of customers that come into the shop that ride with a club. They ride with a large group of performance-oriented cyclists. Perhaps they do randonneuring, perhaps they do ultra-distance cycling. And the reason they're switching to a recumbent is for all the traditional reasons that you switch to a recumbent. So they still want to go fast. They're still riding with those people that want to be able to go fast, and they want to be able to keep up. So for those customers, you need to get onto a fast recumbent.
Okay. So you decided to get that fast recumbent, and some people, I think, do want to use that to race. Some just like to, go out there and not be dropped, or nobody likes to get passed. But some of you might like to buy this recumbent to actually enter into races. And so I think we need to at least briefly talk about the types of races that are available. Jonathan, are you back with us here?
I'm back. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. So we're talking about what sort of racing venues are available for folks. What kind of racing could you get into if you buy this fast recumbent?
Well, the ultra cycling events, of course, are the standby here in North America, and then but we don't have many of the closed course races like the UK does. And this is something we talk about quite a bit, because I think for recumbent racing to grow, they need to have a weekly venue or a monthly venue they can go to. And that makes a huge difference in the progression of racing. Just like in BMX, I grew up doing BMX, and the track supports the sport and vice versa. So that's how things move forward. It's really never happened here, which has kind of restricted the racing.
Right. So ultra racing, of course, that you mentioned, there are other sorts of racing. I've put together a list, and then maybe we'll ask Doug, if you're with us, to talk about some of these other options. I know Doug and Larry actually are going to be entering in a couple of other kinds of races. So there are time trials that are available, the longer distance ultra racing that Jonathan mentioned. Over in Europe especially, they have the World Championships, which are a huge thing over there that we've attended and made videos about. And extreme racing like Battle Mountain is another option, which, there are streamliners, and it's not typically a commercial kind of bike that we're talking about here, but there have been velomobiles that have entered into the Battle Mountain 5-mile race that is going for the fastest time, the fastest miles per hour that you could achieve. So, Doug, tell us about some of the other kinds of racing that's available, and that what you have done.
Well, I mean, the velomobile, back up a second. The Battle Mountain isn't a race necessarily, because you're racing against the clock and just trying to see how fast you can go more than anything else. The ultra racing that Dana talked about, that I do and a lot of others do, are more about racing against others in a similar course. They'll be 6-hour, 12-hour, 24, 48-hour, 500-mile kind of races that you do over a course over time. We don't really have European style racing here yet, although we would have had 2 of them this year had I gotten my way and we hadn't had the virus pandemic, because we had sponsored a couple of them. So next year we'll have 2 of them, hopefully, that are real traditional European style racing. One is an open course, one is a closed course. So hopefully we can get a little bit of excitement going on there. But the cycling industry in general suffers from this over here on this side of the pond, because we really don't have traditional bicycle racing at almost any level. We don't have run what you brung kind of races. We don't have the weekly things. There's some cities that have crits and things like that. They're not necessarily recumbent friendly, given the format. But in general, today recumbents have a very narrow set of races. They have the senior games, they have the ultra marathon stuff, they have time trials, and then they have the HPRA and the other kind of racing like that. And that's basically it. Hopefully that will change as we get more people on bikes and as the bike culture, which is well on improvement this year, given the pandemic, to help increase and get interest in these kind of races.
All right. And, the one other kind of racing that we really haven't discussed, and, Trey talks about this a bit. Trey, can you bring yourself up here for a second and give us, a little something about gravel racing, and we've talked about it a little bit. Tell us about maybe recumbent gravel racing.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned it because right now in our state, Delta Epic is doing a 300-mile gravel race, and there's no recumbents in it. But I've looked at various recumbents, folks that have done some type of gravel riding, and I think that would be another avenue to approach. There's, folks have built custom bikes. You could do it with a regular bike. I've actually thought about doing it with, I've got an old Rands Vivo that I'm restoring. It's full suspension, so it's a short wheelbase. It may be a little squirrely, but I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so maybe we'll start something here for that. That would be a choice. And of course, Guggen Works talks about HPRA, which we've had those guys on the show as well. So we've done a lot of coverage of racing on the Laidback Bike Report, and so let's focus a little bit closer in now on the types of, not only the types of rides, which we just covered, but more specifically, some places that recumbents can race, and more notably, where can't they race? This is something else that we have covered. Who wants to take this? Jonathan, you want to talk a little bit about where recumbents might not be able to race right now?
Well, we also we didn't really cover the triathlons. There was a push to get.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, man. We're going to have to. I can barely hear you now, and this is we've had.
Can you hear me?
Now. Let's, Doug, can I come back? I will come back to you, Jonathan, so you can play around with that. Doug, yeah, you've had some problems getting places to race, and we've talked about senior games and such. Talk to us about some of the issues with not being able to ride a recumbent in a race.
Well, so where Jonathan was going, I heard a little bit of what he was saying, which I think is it was valid. The Triathlon Association there was a big push to allow trikes and recumbents in that. Jonathan may know more about it than I do. I'm not as current on that, but I know that some of the triathlon racing around here is now allowing recumbents as part of the bicycle portion of it.
Let me hold you on that, because actually I know that Larry Seidman does know a little something about this.
Okay,
Larry,
good. So
bring yourself up, and then I'll come back to you, Doug.
All right.
Larry, come on up and tell us about your experience, because you do this.
USA Triathlon, and actually they're getting underneath the International Triathlon Union. In order to ride in a recumbent, you really need to have some sort of disability, or they're now calling it an impairment. You've got to go through and be certified as having an impairment, and then you can be a para-triathlete. Unless you have an impairment or a disability, they're really outlawed or illegal in triathlon.
Okay. So, that's a place that we're hoping to expand things. Doug, why don't you come on back and talk to me about senior games? Now, we've done a lot on this, but if you can give us just a short synopsis here about the senior games nationally and individually. Now, there are a few that allow recumbents. What's the progress with us getting into senior games now?
So I don't know the statistics. More than half, I would guess, without looking it up, of the state level or regional level senior games are now allowing recumbents in all events. A few more of them are allowing them in the time trial only events, but the national levels is time trial only, and it's a big fight some of us are involved in right now to try to push to allow recumbent trikes and velomobiles and other things at the national level senior games. But it's not happening yet, except in the time trials, the 5K and the 10K.
All right. And let's talk about RAM. And I think, Dana, you'd be a perfect person to talk to. I believe you have, in fact, done RAM. Tell us about a brief history of recumbents in RAM and what the status is. We can't say today because they're not running this year, but what the current status is for recumbents in RAM, if you would.
Sure. So I can't really give much of a history of Race Across America. I don't know in terms of recumbents, but I raced RAM in 2010 and 2012 on both times on 4-person teams, and they have their own category for recumbents, whether you're solo, whether you're 2-person, whether you're 4-person, and they welcome recumbents. We didn't have any problems racing. We didn't have any problems with anything. They just welcomed us with open arms, and it was a fantastic experience. I don't know if people have specific questions about RAM. First year I did it team Carbent. Those are the bikes that I make, and the second year I did on a team racing Bacchettas. So lots of different good bikes out there to ride on RAM, and
okay.
Again, I'd be open to questions if people have specific questions about that.
All right, and Doug, I know that you have planned to do RAM, and the other race I wanted to talk about, which is the Trans Am, an unsupported cross-country race. Can you tell us a little bit about your plans and about Trans Am, what that is?
Okay, so I have planned to do RAM. I've been RAM qualified a couple of times. I was supposed to be RAM qualified, about a week or so ago, but the race that I was going on actually took out the velomobile and multi-track bikes and basically kind of made them not legal to ride in a race. So I've missed my chance to do RAM qualified this time around. Fortunately, there's another one that I reached out to here later in the year that's absolutely willing to host and have me there so I can get my qualifier for that. There is some controversy in RAM with multi-track recumbents right now. I know that I've had conversations, and we will have to continue to have conversations. There's no resolution on it, and it has to do with having the ride to the left, to the right of the fog line. And on a multi-track recumbent, as many of us know, there be runnable strips there. And on a single track, it's not so difficult to navigate. On a multi-track vehicle, navigating the rumble strips and not having to sacrifice a wheel or your dental work can be a bit of an adventure. So we're not there yet, but hopefully we'll be. I'm still going after a RAM qualifier again because they only last a couple of years and mine are long since expired. But I'll get another one before this next year's round, and then I hope to do it. The TABR, as everybody in this space knows, was completely and totally dominated by the Velomobile group that went out with Marcel Graber, who's been on the show before.
This is the Trans Am, to be clear.
This is sorry, I used the abbreviation. I should have clarified that. And that's another one I would like to do, but I think I'm going to do it after the RAM. The RAM has been a dream of mine since the 80s. And meeting Lon Haldeman and Susan and those people way back in those days, I've always had that as a dream, and I was aiming for it in the early 2000s. And when I came up with my medical issues, that kind of shut that down. And so it's back on my list, and I'm getting there. So I hope to get it in next year, the year after. I've got a team, I've got a crew, I've got people here that are willing to for some reason or other, to give me the time to survive that with me as a crew. So as Larry knows, that's just as much a work to be a crew on RAM as it is to ride it. And I think it's something that we should be able to get clarified and worked out, and hopefully be there. And then maybe another year or so after that, I'll take a run at the Trans Am bike race. Because by that time, everybody will have forgotten about the velomobiles in the TABR, and it'll be time to do it again.
Very good. All right, folks, let's get a little bit closer to the actual bikes, trikes, and velomobiles in terms of making that choice. And I want to ask our panel about why you would choose a bicycle versus a tricycle versus a velomobile. So let's start out maybe with Dana again. And Dana, you do car bent, and of course you've done it all, but tell us why you would choose a bike, a recumbent bike, to do any particular race. Why would it be a bike as opposed to the other two?
At this point, I don't know of anybody successfully completing any of these ultra distant races on trikes. That doesn't mean they can't participate. Nobody's just really done it. Mark Leahas just did an event out here, out in Borrego Springs, but other than him, I just don't know of many people doing it. We picked short wheelbase bikes, a lot of it for logistics. I mean, yes, a velomobile would be faster, but I think Doug was talking about how much work it is for the crew, and that really, the logistics is very, very difficult on any of these races, and we just could not wrap our heads around how to transport on a 4-person team really 8 velomobiles around in a way that was easy for the crew to access or the racers to access, to be able to do fast swaps on the road. Short wheelbase bikes fit really nicely in regular bike racks. They're lightweight, and it's just really easy in terms of logistics.
Okay, fair
and
enough.
fast.
Now, Larry Seidman, let's ask you about trikes. So, I mean, Dana makes a good point there as far as those logistics go, but that's not the kind of racing that you do. So, tell us why you like racing trikes.
I just had to give in to the triathlon rules. According to their para-triathlete, if you're disabled or have an impairment, you've got to have balance issues, and so they deem it safer to be on a trike because of balanced issues.
Okay, so it's a practical selection that you made then to do that, but you make the most of that. I think there are other reasons. Trey, did you have something?
No,
No. Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So
Gary,
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I just want to mention, I think racing on trikes is fine. You were asking specifically about ultra distance racing. So when I'm thinking of a 500-mile race, 1,000-mile race, the logistics are just so much more complicated.
No, your point is a good one there, Dana. And right, I mean, these are all tools, right, that we would use in the right situation. So that's a good point. And Larry, that's kind of what he was talking about. So, all right, let's find out about velomobiles. Back to Doug, if we could. So, Doug, velomobiles have been raced in various situations. Most all of the types of racing we've talked about. Give us a rundown on what the best use of a velomobile is in terms of racing, why you would choose it, and why do you ride velomobiles in races?
Well, I think it's the best choice, period, but I'm a little biased about that. You know, they're going to be faster. You're more protected. Particularly, a lot of these ultra races tend to be in the weather. There was Bessie's Creek 3 years ago. We had a weather where it started out at 70 degrees and ended at 30-ish, 18 hours later. And the people on the non-enclosed bikes were absolutely suffering miserably toward the end of that, because and the velomobile guys would just take off the shirts and put the wet shirt in the back and ride anyway. So it was not a big deal. So weather protection is the same reason you'd ride them anywhere else. Weather protection, speed, visibility. They're obviously highly visible, and they're comfortable like any recumbent is. So they're fun, and they're a little bit unusual, and take a little bit of different kind of thinking through the logistics, as Dana talked about. And I had to laugh when he was talking about the reason they chose short wheelbases. Is one of the logistic things I've been working on the Ram is how to transport both the operating velomobile and the backup velomobile and the backup velomobile in the size of the vehicles that you're allowed to use, and handle the crew management, all that kind of stuff, because it's quite complex. It's an interesting problem. Because you can't just toss it on the back of the motorhome. You've got to figure all this other. You got to do other things for it. So there's more to it than meets the eye. And I think that's part of what appeals to me, because it's not just a physical challenge, it's a mental and logistics challenge too.
Is that solvable, Doug? Will you be able to find the proper vehicles that fit within the rules? I mean, that seems to me like one of the biggest hurdles that you'll have to get over to be able to do it.
It's actually going to be difficult, because I bought a big transit van for my own use for the long before I opened the shop. It's become the shop van now, but it's outside the limits for ROM's vehicles, and so I've got to get another one, different size, and the other one different size won't carry as much stuff. And in fact, the one I have now, I can put 4 Velomobiles in it stacked. The one that I would have to use, I could only put 2 of them in barely. And so
what are the limits?
There's a height and a width and a length limit. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but you can find them on the rule book. And the long wheelbase transit van blows the length and the height limit.
Okay, and that's Joseph has chimed in here saying he suggests transporting them vertically.
Yeah, you blow the height limit. Then you'd have to do them at an angle, which is possible. Then you're going to have to weld up a custom trailer for it, which is doable. I have another solution for it that I've worked through that keeps them in the van, but it's a little bit of staircase magic, let's call it that.
Okay, so Joseph, he's seen that done. I don't think Doug is saying you couldn't do that, but there are rules for RAM particularly that would preclude that. Is that right?
Yeah, 8-foot limit on the height. So most of the Velomobiles are going to be above that. Now again, you could do it diagonally and get there, but you just, there's a bunch to it. It would be better to do it in an enclosed space for lots of reasons. And you're assuming that they're going to break down. You're going to have to work on them. So one of the ideas behind the transit van was one of the vans you could have the Velomobile and the workshop in it, so that it could be worked on if and when it broke. Because you have to assume it will. You had a way to pull the backup Velomobile, get the other one in, and be able to have somebody at the crew level working on it while you continued the race.
All right. Very good. All right. So that gives us a little idea on some of the reasons for making the various choices between the various types of recumbents to race. Now, I think what we need to kind of finish up on are very specifically, what are the features that our potential buyer needs to be looking for to make that recumbent purchase the fastest it can be. So what are the features on this bike, trike, or velomobile? So obviously, to me, the first thing to talk about is aerodynamics, right? I mean, this is one of the most important things, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe, let's get Peter Stull in here anyways. Maybe not the guy known the most for racing recumbents, but Peter, you know a lot about this stuff, I'm sure. Tell us about what makes a recumbent aero. What do you do to make it aero, and what features should you be looking for?
Well, the first thing you do is recline the seat a whole lot and raise the pedals some. That cuts your frontal area. It's pretty quick and easy. The second thing you do is you add aerodynamics to it. When I raced the 2001 HPRA race in Quebec, I was on a George Reynolds bike that was quite reclined, and it had a tailbox. George and I won that one. It was kind of cool. But the next thing you do after that, you could start ovalizing frame tubes and, wearing a skin suit, things like that. Skin suit's probably more important than ovalizing frame tubes. 2 wheels, of course, are more aero than 3, unless you put a shell over the whole thing, and now you've got a velomobile, which is the most aero of all. On a real hilly course, the aero is less important, and frame stiffness is more important. Maybe
okay. And you mentioned the shell, but of course, if you're going to go part way and not get a velomobile, we can talk about fairings too, right? Whether it's a bike or a trike. How about adding a fairing, Peter? What does that do?
Yep. Yeah, especially for a stronger rider who's going faster, any aerodynamics is much more important at higher speeds. If somebody gets get their first trike and they're riding 10 miles an hour, the fairing will keep you warm and dry, but it's not going to make you much faster. But if you're going 20 miles an hour, the fairing will make a difference. So in the people that are getting fast trikes and going fast, front fairing, they're warm, they're dry, they're readily available in the market to fit almost any bike. They're easy to remove to transport the bike. They're really cool looking.
Okay. Yep. So that's something
Yeah,
to add.
fairings are
All right.
neat.
Anybody else on the panel want to talk? Doug, go ahead.
Sure.
There's three things that are going to make a difference to you on these ultra races, particularly aerodynamics, aerodynamics, and aerodynamics. You just can't get away from that one. It's not possible. And anything you can do, frontal area, smaller frontal area, even if you do see some of the wind tunnel tests from the road bike world, things like helmet technology, they have spent millions of dollars developing aero-based helmets. Well, none of that's been spent on recumbents hardly at all. And so that's an area that has lots of garage physicists working on. I've seen some of that wondering in my shop with the folks we got around here. Everybody's thinking about that because that's the most important thing is this aerodynamics. And if you look at like the Greenspeed Aero, which is not necessarily structurally or weight wise looks like it should be fast, but because it's so low to the ground and cuts such a small hole through the wind, it's able to take advantage of the aerodynamics and literally become something like the much less drag. And then what was it? The M5. If you remember the M5 low racers do the same thing. They're very low to the ground and very high low CDAs, which makes them very aerodynamic and very fast. And if you've ever seen these guys out on the roads or out on a race, these low racers like the Aero are so quick because they're just not pushing much air in front of them.
Yeah, the M5 and Morsiglio's bikes and trikes that we've talked about and had John Morsiglio on the show a number of months ago as well. I actually tried to get a hold of John. I did, but he was not able to get on the show today. But there are other options besides the manufacturers that we're going to talk with today. Dana, I saw your hand up earlier. Did you have something you wanted? To go ahead.
So again, I really want to emphasize that there's different kinds of racing. I saw somebody just posting in the chat about lowering their seat to 3 degrees, and that may work in some situations. In other situations, it won't. So in terms of the bike, setting up your bike, you really want to be working with a shop that has experience racing. So, for example, the more you set the length of that seat, the longer your handlebars need to be. You need to be able to reach the handlebars. So you need a shop that can provide those. The one thing that nobody has brought up here when it comes to two-wheel bikes is your wheel set. Put a disc wheel on the back of that bike. You're not going to have the issues that you have on a traditional upright bike with crosswinds. It really acts as a rudder. I always recommend a disc brake and as deep of a front wheel as you can possibly manage. Those are going to be huge aerodynamic upgrades that are easily available, not requiring any custom anything. You can just buy them from your shop. And as I was joking before we got on, zip up your dang jacket. It's funny to me when I'm seeing videos of people out on events and they got the jacket flapping all over the place. That you just ruined your aerodynamic advantage of your $3,500 set of wheels. So
good point. Yep. Yeah. You got to dress smooth, don't you, to cut through the air. Doug, what do you have there?
I have the wheel off the back of my R84 right here. To talk to Dana was saying is this was something I built myself. This is what I've raced with before on my R84, and you can see the the Ferry Road cassette on it, and the deep dish. And what's really interesting, and it's hard to see the camera, is how low profile the rubber is on this. And so you can see how aerodynamic this wheel is just by looking straight through it like that. There's very little in the way of the wind, and that's really the key to it.
All right. Let's one of the items I did have on my list here to talk about, and Dana started with wheel covers, and you showing us that it has to do with wheel size. We really haven't talked about that, and we just may be assuming a larger wheel size works, but both on a bike and a trike, you can have more of a 20-inch wheel and then more of a 26-700C kind of wheel on the rear, and have different sized wheels then. Peter, let's come back to you and tell us, if you want to go as fast as you can, what do the wheel sizes have to do with that?
On most courses, the only racing I've done is pretty much basic pavement. So I would use a 700C wheel is faster. On a two-wheeler, that means that your pedals are pretty high in the air, and I'm 6'2", so I can do that. But if you're 5'6", you may not be able to reach the ground from that bike. So you might do a 20-inch front wheel just so you could get the seat height down to a reasonable amount. On a trike, I'm not aware of anybody that does a fast trike with a large front wheel, because it either has to be extremely wide or have a really large turning circle. But the larger rear wheel, of course, it makes it easy to get high gears for racing, and it's a little bit quicker and a little smoother over bumps.
All right, and let's go there. That was going to be my next question, anyways. Peter, I'll come back to you, and we'll see if anyone else wants to chime in. Gearing, you mentioned, right? So the gearing, if you're going to be racing, might be a bit different than if you're going to be touring, which was the subject we covered in last week's BentCon. What sorts of gearing would you be looking at if you wanted to race versus any other kind of riding on a bent? Peter?
Well, for touring, we talked about last year that I think I said I'd rather coast down a hill than walk up one. You got a long day and you got a heavy load, and who cares if you're going fast? You're watching the scenery. A race is, of course, the opposite of that, where you want to go as fast as possible. Now, maybe my attitude's a little different than most people, and I haven't raced at all since 2001, so that dates me just a bit. But when I was racing, especially traditional bikes, I always hammered on the hill climbs and relaxed on the descents, because on the hill climb, the wind resistance is negligible, and if I put out 10% more horsepower, I'm going to go 10% faster, and everybody else is going to have to put out the same horsepower to keep up. But if we're in a group on the flats, or if we're descending, then drafting is a big deal. And if the guy in the front hammers hard, people behind him just suck wheel and follow along and don't have to work so hard. Then a descent, of course, if you're going 40 miles an hour and you put out 10% more horsepower, you're going to go, 1 or 2% faster, because wind resistance goes up by the cube of your speed, unless you have laminar flow, which you might have in a velomobile. So I would coast down hills, and I was in a diamond frame way back then, and before it was early 90s, and from the 70s to 90s, I raced traditional bikes. I would, get my head lower and tuck my elbows in, put my knees together inside the frame, and go down like this, and I was in one race where I had a bike that I'd cobbled up that was particularly aero, and all the way down a 3 or 4 mile descent. The guy who eventually came in second place was pedaling in my draft while I coasted. Now, if that didn't give me an advantage in the sprint to the finish, I'll tell you, I came up out of my tuck and went goodbye, and he'd been working, and not only working, but he'd been spinning really fast to do it. So now that was back in the day when you couldn't get really high gears like we have now. There weren't 11-speed freewheel cassettes at that, 11-tooth cassettes at that time, I believe. So yes, on racing, high gears is more important. If you're climbing Mount Washington, the low gears are relatively important also. But if you're gonna use the granny gear on a triple crank set, you're not competitive anyway, unless it's a really horrifically steep. Off-road racing, I suppose you would definitely use a triple. I like triples. I know the market's going to doubles. I'm not a fan, but anyway, let's get somebody who's got more recent experience.
Dana, I think you had something to add.
I'm sorry, I got to disagree with most of what he said. Sorry, Peter.
That's why you're here, Dana. Go ahead, Ben.
It's just disagreeable. Ram. Okay. You need to have the low gears to be able to get up whatever climb you're doing, and especially on distance races, you're getting more and more fatigue. You need the lower gears.
Well,
the fact is, all of the bikes, if you have a 700C wheel, you're all gonna have the same top gear. It's gonna be something like a 50 or 52 chain ring and an 11-tooth cog in the back. So it's really about making sure that you have the gear range. And this is one of the things I was going to bring up earlier. When you're going to buy a performance-oriented recumbent, you need to be working with a dealer that understands what your needs are. Most of the off-the-shelf bikes from, I don't care if it's Bacchetta, Cruzbike, brands, whatever, in all likelihood, the way it's set up is not going to be what you need. It may, but probably not. The kind of riding that I do out here, I mean, Doug, I would love to race a velo wheel. I've owned velo wheels and I've sold them all because it's regularly 110 degrees here. And if I'm having to stop at stoplights or deal with the heat, I just can't in a velomobile. So that's why I stopped selling them.
Yeah, Doug, you want to
respond? You're racing out.
We have a term for that in racing. It's called WIMP.
Uh-huh. Don't suck. Don't suck.
So that's a conversation I have a lot, actually. And Velomobiles have changed quite a bit because of that over the years. Almost all the ones we would race with today have air pressure, air intakes at the nose. And that's where the air pressure builds up. So when you're riding, and you know, it gets 100 plus degrees here all the time, and I would rather be in a velomobile than on a road bike, not just because I like the position better, but because you're at a stoplight, you're going to cook no matter what you're in, particularly when it's 120 degrees outside. But when you get rolling, the pressure builds up on the nose of the velomobile, and that causes it to pull through, and you basically have the same, you know, as you had the windows down in your car. You get a lot of swamp cooling that goes through there. And in fact, what's interesting about it is, like the Hotter Than Hell a couple of years ago that I blew through with the velomobile, I was completely dry in the front of my jersey because all the air pressure had dried it off, and my back was wet because that's where it was on the seat. So the cooling effect is pretty significant nowadays, and particularly when they're set up right, which goes to something else you were saying. I want to disagree and agree with both you and Peter on this one. The cassettes today have a huge range in them. When we all kind of raced road bikes in the 70s and 80s and dating ourselves years, we were dealing with very narrow, small road cassettes, kind of like the one I had on my R84 there. But today, it's not impossible to get up to a 50 in the back with the right build and right wheels and right derailleurs and everything else. So when you deal with a 50 to an 11, or in some cases, like I run a 40 to an 11 on my velomobile right now, that's a really wide range, and you may or may not necessarily need the triple if you can get the front cassette rings to fit into that.
Okay, guys, let's if we can move along then from gearing to, we talked about wheels, and I don't want to get too deep into this because we could do 6 hours on this, but let's talk about tires in general for this racing recumbent. The conventional wisdom had been, as far as I know, in the past at least, the narrower the wheel, the tire, the faster the bike is going to be, or trike. So I've heard otherwise last few years. And Peter, let's start with you again, if we could. What's your idea about what the width of tires, and maybe what kind of tire should you pick for the wheels that we've chosen for this racing bike?
Well, the fastest thing back in the day was silk sew-ups pumped up to 140 psi. I flatted one of those in a trainer once and said, I'm never going to spend $60 on a tire again. That was back when I didn't have $60. So nowadays, yeah, I think the fatter tires are, people have actually started measuring things instead of just having opinions. What a cool idea that is. And Ian Sims, for instance, has given out some measurements about 16-inch wheels being fast, especially in acceleration. I still think the bigger wheels are better on average road conditions because a larger wheel doesn't see a bump as much as an obstacle as a little wheel does. So it rolls smoother and faster over bigger bumps. But the really skinny tires, they feel bumps more too. And if you can go a little bigger, that seems to be better. And lighters is always good for climbs, but some of the tires are like the Marathon Racer has slightly higher resistance apparently than the Marathon, which is a heavier tire. Who knew? Who would have thought? But that's what some of the numbers are saying. And I'll defer to the guys with more up-to-date tire racing info to finish out this segment.
Okay, Dana, you want to chime in on that? Tires?
I mean, so I'm going to assume that if you're racing on 700C wheels, and that's really all I can speak to. There is so much data out there about the fastest tires, what size is the fastest. For the most part, we're putting 28 millimeter tires on most everything now, sometimes even a little larger, 30 millimeter. Rarely, I haven't sold a 23 millimeter tire in years. So you got to look at the kind of racing you're doing. If you're going to be on the open road, you need something a little bit more durable. I I personally have always liked the Continental Grand Prix 4000 S tires. Then there was the S2, and now there's the 5000. I just always found those were a good balance of durability and speed. But tires are one of those things that you can play with, because as you're training, you're gonna go through lots of tires. So try different kinds and see what feels most comfortable for you.
Makes good sense. And Doug, you want to finish up on the tires?
Yeah, so what Peter said is so true. Everybody's measuring it nowadays, and more importantly, and this is something we didn't bring up earlier, you can measure yourself and you can measure these things. So getting a power meter on the bike is critically important nowadays, because you can use some analysis software. I use some really good, some frighteningly good software compared to what we had only a few years ago, that I can run the same ride multiple times with different wheels and it will tell me what happened. And it's so subjective when you're on your body. Oh, it hurts so much. I must have really done a good job. And then you look at your numbers and it's like, well, that was a terrible ride. And then other days you feel the same, you feel bad. And it's the greatest ride you ever had. But when you do comparisons side by side, same road, same everything, and the only thing you swap out is the tires or the pressure or what have you, the software is so good, it can see these kind of things. It sees that you were putting out 250 watts during this stretch. The other day you were putting out 220, and it understands the math, the wind resistance, everything else, assuming you've given it the right data, that says, okay, I used Continental GP 4000 versus a Zafrino, a Vittoria Zafrino, and this was the difference in how much energy it took to go down the road. And it's shockingly good. Again, it's a garbage in, garbage out problem. But if you're willing to do the diligence to put it all in, it can give you invaluable information about your performance and the tire performance. And the back when we all raced, again, everybody were skinny tires, and that was the only, the smaller, the skinnier tires you did was the faster. And there's still some aerodynamic truth to that, but the rolling resistance we're finding out with today's modern tires, skinny's not necessarily the right answer for all cases. You might find that 28s, which seems to be the mainstream nowadays, are more durable, they're more reliable, they're slightly less aero, but the rolling resistance is at or above the 23s or the 18s, and that's enough to make a difference.
Good. All right. The power meter that you mentioned, Doug, gives me an idea. We're going to, next week, we're going to do the accessories and resources for Recumbents show.
We might talk about that.
Maybe that's something you might remind me of, and we will make sure to talk about power meters for those who are interested in that. All right. Coming to the end here, as far as I know, and then I'm going to open it up and see what we've missed, guys. One of the big things we have really not mentioned here, it's just kind of been assumed, has to do with the weight of this recumbent, because I think it goes without saying that all other things being equal, a heavier bike, trike, or velomobile is going to be slower than a lighter one. So what about weight? Where do you look for? What sorts of things do you look for that will trim off weight in terms of this bike, trike, or velomobile that we're looking at? And how important is weight? Maybe we should even start there. So, Peter, let's start with you.
Right here.
Hi.
No one saw that. Dana, I'm going to come back.
I was going to say, here.
Belly ready to go,
right
pal. All right.
That's the built-in aerodynamics.
We're going to have a segment on the aero belly. Well, yeah, less weight is certainly better. If you're in a group race where you're doing pack sprints, which a lot of road races do that. Of course, we're not allowed in most road races, I believe. The ultra marathon is different, and I'm not personally familiar with that. So lighter is better, especially if it's hilly or it's a race that'll have sprints in it. On one end, you can get so light that the bike is flexible and doesn't transmit power well, and that's, of course, a loss all the time. So there's a balance to the lightweight. If you make the wheels lighter or the cranks lighter or get a titanium chain and things like that, that's always good to take weight off. But some items, like if you get a real expensive chain and cassette, they wear out. So it's something you have to replace more frequently. And for some people, that's not a big issue. But when I was racing, that was an issue. I ran steel because I could afford to replace it when I needed to. and I was a fairly light rider. Another thing to consider is, you have a lady that weighs 110 pounds. The weight of the bike's more important to her than to, a strapping young football player that weighs 250. So I like to think about the weight of the bike as a percentage of the rider's body weight. The big guy, he's going to need heavier wheels. He's either going to break wheels occasionally, or he's going to need heavier wheels. So again, like Dana says, you've got to, you can buy a bike from a factory. It's a super bike and it's wonderful, but they hadn't met you yet at the factory. And your local dealer, especially if they have some race information, they're going to, although that wheel's not going to hold up for you, or, you're going to be able to go a lot lighter wheels than those, or you're going to need lower gears for this particular course, or all of those things. That's where your local dealer comes in and is very, very helpful.
All right, Dana, tell us about your weight. I mean, your ideas about weight.
It's much heavier than it was in 2012. I'll tell you that. I think for the most part, I agree with what Peter was saying. In terms of bike weight, it's such a small percentage. What I would be looking at as a more important variable is how stiff is the bike. You can have really lightweight bikes that are just noodles. The weight is completely offset. Any weight advantage you're getting is going to completely be offset by the wet noodle that you're sitting on. Especially if you're a stockier guy like I am. I remember riding a tight Arrow, 20 years ago, and that thing was just, it was all over the place. It was not a fast bike for me. And getting back to aerodynamics trumps weight every single time. I would rather put somebody on a Corsa that's going to be a little bit heavier and get them on a really good set of wheels that's going to improve the aerodynamics than put them on a carbon aero with really junky wheels, box section, nothing wheels. So
all right.
We've done a lot of things here in terms of stiffening up the bikes, different ways that we mount the seats and different stays that we use, because again, it's more about the stiffness. It's more about making sure that all of the power go from your pedal to the rear wheel. And that's why some of the people really love the cruise bikes, because it's more likely to happen. It's such a short drive line. I know Jonathan would be talking about that if he was here.
Yep, and we will see cruise bikes in a few minutes here. Doug, let me finish up with you on this issue and maybe throw a little something in there that Peter alluded to when he talked about the steel frame. What about material that goes into the frame? That obviously has some bearing on the weight of your bike. So carbon fiber versus aluminum versus steel. And there are trade-offs as Dana talked about, probably in terms of stiffness. Give us your idea about this.
Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Everything's a trade-off here. So carbon stiffer, it has other issues. Titanium's more flexible, and has other issues. When you really get right down to it, watts for watts. What energy you can put into the system that gets through to the system, to the rear wheel, to the ground is what matters. Some bikes physically are stiffer. They have more tuned drivetrains. The stuff we can do aftermarket to tune up drivetrains and get them there. Everything from changing idlers to different kinds of tubes to different kind of chain lines. All this is there, and then it goes even to your technique that you pedal. And I do a demonstration with people around here that want to know, how can they get better, and I talk about their pedal stroke. And the road bike guys know this. I've got a computer that we bought that does this in the back for the road bike crowd that we deal with. And we've adapted it to the recumbent crowd too. But the one thing that I show people all the time in the parking lot out here when they're riding is as I take a bike flag and I stick it down the boom of the bike and let it stick out 2 or 3 feet and just tape it onto the boom or zip tie it onto the boom and tell them to ride around with it. And you ride around, the bike flag does this. It goes, and then I get on their bike and I ride around with it, and the bike does this. It just barely moves. And I said, that's developed a pedal stroke that is smooth, and that gets more energy. It's a more efficient stroke. So from there, how much of that can you transfer into the drivetrain based on the materials and everything else? Again, you're doing some trade-offs, but getting that pedal stroke can put more energy into that drivetrain, get it, and it gets it back out. There's less energy wasted when the bike's doing this. A stiffer bike won't do this as much than a more as it was in a noodle bike, and we have some of those around. But in the end, even a noodle bike, if you've got a smooth enough stroke, won't bounce around as much.
Okay, Doug, let's wind this up here. We have a question that goes back a little bit. We talked about tires. We didn't really talk about tubeless or clinchers, especially tubeless. I know has been relatively popular. So let's frame this in our racing or fast recumbent idea here, and tell us about tubeless. Is it an advantage, disadvantages, such? Thank you, Michael, for the question, by the way.
So this is going to be a Catholics versus Protestants discussion pretty quickly. I'm not a big fan of tubeless for racing because changing a tire takes longer. And when tubeless works, it works great. It's fantastic. And when it finally stops working, it's a giant mess that you have to deal with and takes a huge amount of time. And unless you're going to Formula One it and just swap the whole wheel out, you can be dealing with something for quite some time to clean up, even if all you're going to do is shove a tube in it and go. So I tend to run latex tubes, which is a little bit more rare and typically a little bit more old school. They give you the light weight, but when they blow, you can throw another one in and keep going just as fast as you can run a butyl tube. And so there are trade-offs on all of them. People will argue that tubeless are less prone to flats. True. Especially some micro flats and the stuff that you see where you get wires cut through the casings from on the road. Those are all true statements. They tend to be lighter, which is a true statement. Arguably, they can be as fast or faster than a latex-based tube. On the flip side, though, the failure modes are spectacular when they happen, and they, certainly in a velomobile, they get up all, Then not only do they mess up the wheel, they mess up the bike too, and it sprays that stuff all over everything. So I tend to think this is going to be something that you have to make a decision on the kind of race you're going to do. If I was on a 5K, 10K, even up to a 40K time trial, I'd probably go with tubeless because it was light and more durable for that and less likely to flat out on me in that situation. But if I was going on an ultra race where I was planning on riding 24 hours or more, I will almost always choose latex tubes for that. And given that they're similarly lightweight and rotational weight is a big issue, but they're also going to be more durable than the latex and less prone to catastrophic failures.
Very good. All right, we're going to leave that there. Dana, yeah, I'm going to come to you anyways. I want you to, if you can, let us know about anything you think that we've left out here in this segment. And if you want to respond to that particularly, that's fine. And then just go ahead and let us know what else you think to finish it up.
Go tubeless, period. The micro flats that you're going to avoid are going to save you so much time. And if you have a spectacular blowout on a tubeless, you would have a spectacular blowout on a tubed tire. You can easily stick a tube inside of a tubeless tire. The technology of these tires has improved dramatically over the last decade. I'm putting more and more people on tubeless, and they love them. You can run the tire pressure a little bit lower to get a more comfortable ride, and yet the rolling resistance is still great. So I'm a big proponent of tubeless tires personally.
Okay. And anything else that we, go ahead and finish up if there's anything else you think that we haven't discussed.
The only thing that I wanted to bring up that did not really come up at the beginning of this discussion is engineering. Technically, it's not racing, but it's very much performance oriented and that people are trying to go as fast as they can. For those people that don't know what engineering is, it is ultra distance.
Dana, you're kind of cutting out a little bit just so everyone understands. You're saying randoneering.
My head too much.
No, go ahead. Randoneering, though. Go ahead.
Randoneering is ultra-distance, non-competitive timed cycling. So you're out on a course with a bunch of other people. Everybody's doing the same course. There's no winner. In fact, the person who finishes last frequently gets more accolades than the person who finished first because they were out on the road suffering longer. But you definitely want a performance-oriented bike to go as fast as you can. And a lot of us use randoneering as a way to train for ultra-distance events. And it's a great way if you're not sure about racing, but you love performance cycling and you want to get your feet wet. Look up rusa.org, rusa.org. Find a local randoneering group near you and get involved. They they welcome whatever bike you're on. It doesn't matter. It's very much a spirit of camaraderie and companionship rather than competition.
Sounds great. Anything else,
yeah.
Dana?
Doug knows that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Was all I was going to say. And again,
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. If you
I
would,
just
sorry,
want to
Larry, just
interject.
give me a second.
Is
Dana,
that-
if you would you put that into the chat or make a comment on that, the Randoneering group, so people can find that. Okay, when you have a chance. No rush.
Sure. So that's the chat on YouTube, not the chat that I'm seeing here.
Yeah,
and,
the chat on YouTube or Facebook. If you put it in there, I'll try to get it into the description.
I'll get it into YouTube right quick.
Okay, that's fine. Doug, did you, Larry? Come on back. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to interject. Is that similar to there's a big style coming up called Grand Fondo? Those are getting more popular. And actually, recumbents are allowed in under USA cycling rules.
Sort of. They're allowed in the event, but they are not allowed to compete for prizes.
All right. Another
believe me, I know this one very well. We have one that launches like 3 miles from my store, which I've won several times, but I can't win the prize. I can only just pretend like I win.
Well, that sucks.
All right. And Peter, I'm going to give you the last word here if you want to sum up, and if there's anything that you think we might have overlooked here in the discussion that pertains to what you would need to do to buy that fast recumbent. What have we missed? And sum it up.
Well, one thing that's repeatedly come up is frame stiffness versus aerodynamics. And again, if you have the 110-pound person, frame stiffness is not a big issue. If you have a 250-pound person, especially that doesn't pedal smoothly, frame stiffness is a real big issue. Again, ride then decide. Go to a dealer. If you really care about speed, take a speedometer, like a GPS speedometer you can transfer from bike to bike. Ride a bunch of bikes, see what you like, and then take a couple of your favorites out and do 10 or 20 miles on them and with a speedometer. And take a couple 3-hour break in between so that it's fair. It's going to take more than a day to do this, isn't it? Yes, it is. But if you really want to go fast and you want to do distance and you don't want to buy a series of bikes, which would be great fun, but then it's going to take a lot of test riding.
That's how I did it.
See? I thought he'd chime in on that one. Yeah.
There you go. Take it from Doug. All right, guys, I think we're going to leave it there. We've got a bunch of manufacturers to go through now that you guys have set it all up for our potential buyer. They're going to get a chance to see what these manufacturers have and now hopefully you have an idea about how to evaluate what you're about to see from these manufacturers. So thank you to all my panelists. You guys are welcome to stick around. We will chat briefly at the end and say goodbye. So thank you very much for especially our special guest, Jonathan. I'm sorry that the audio didn't work out. So wherever you are, Jonathan Garcia, thanks. And Dana Lieberman, thank you so much for taking a little time out. We were really useful information for us. We appreciate that. And my regular panel, Peter and Doug and Larry, thanks for staying under the tree for us. So, all right, Larry, let's go ahead and move along to our manufacturer segment briefly. As I've described at the beginning of the show, these are 5-minute segments, mostly videos that the manufacturers have provided to BentCon here. These are their booths. So, Larry, when you are ready, I think we will go ahead and start with our pal Hans Agala at AZUB.
Hello everybody, here I am, Hans Agala from AZUB Bike, and I am here again to talk about some fast options we have for our recumbents. You know that we are definitely not a company which would produce very light, very fast recumbent bikes or trikes. But we like to ride fast, and we have some models and some options which can give you an opportunity to ride a very comfortable bike in a very fast speeds, let's say, or very fast manner. One of them can be this AZUB Max 700, which we introduced at the beginning of the season. It is slightly adjusted, well-known AZUB Max with 700C, or if you want to say 28-inch wheels, with some road bike components like the carbon front fork or road cranks. It can be configured via our configurator online in our advanced level of builds, or you can dream wild and discuss your wishes and needs with our sales team, and they can build you the bike in the epic level of builds. Like, for example, this one, which is a personal bike of Jan, our sales manager, and he rides it. He rides it quite a lot, and he can help you with configuring the very fast and still very comfortable bike for you. It can be a very nice commuting bike, or a bike for fast touring on smooth roads, so you can enjoy very speedy traveling, let's say. If we talk about trikes, we can build some faster riding trikes as well. It doesn't really matter which model you choose, except for the fat bike, fat trike. But it can be, for example, the TIE Fly 20, which is now in the assembly room in the stand being assembled. It's a TIE Fly 20 with narrow tires, dynamo hub, and a roll of 14 speed hub. And I can imagine that this bike will be used for, as I mentioned, fast commuting or fast touring, or both, of course. So it is really up to you whether you want to experience just the fast rides, or if you want to go fast but also comfortable. And we are ready to help you with the decision. We are ready to help you to configure the very best and still fast and comfortable bike for you. And you can either contact us directly, or you can go to one of the dealers we have all around the world and discuss that with you. We will then deliver it to them, and this is the perfect way to cooperate and to make the deal. I wish you a nice rest of the BentCon 2020, talking about the very different fast recumbents, and then have a nice day. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Hansa. Very good. Folks, Hansa is on the live chat on YouTube, I see here. So if you have any questions about AZUB fast bikes or anything to do with AZUB, he's there to respond to you right now. All right, let's move on now to Bacchetta Cycles. Mark Swanson sent me this really cool video. We're going to see it right now. Go ahead, Larry.
Every racer knows the importance of speed, comfort, performance, the determination and grit needed to power through high overpasses and long mileage, the blood, sweat, and tears that fuel your body and mind to go just a little longer, followed by the euphoric feeling of accomplishment as you cross the finish line. Perhaps you race simply for the thrill of the ride, the scenery, the love of the sport, your Bacchetta bike, or maybe you race for a cause important to you. Whatever the reason, you need a bike that will fuel you in your race. The Bacchetta carbon fiber line does just that. The Carbon Aero CA3 and the Trike CT2 provide a significant advantage to racers and carbon recumbents because carbon fiber is significantly lighter and can be made stiffer than aluminum, steel, or titanium, which translates to speed, better absorption of road vibration, longer distances, and a more comfortable and stylish ride. The CT2 Trike is the newest addition. It's the lightest, fastest, and sleekest on the market. That's why Rob DeCou, an Uberman triathlete, chooses the Bacchetta Carbon Aero CA3 to go the distance and to fight for his cause, ending human trafficking. Over 40 million people are enslaved around the globe due to human trafficking, which is the second largest criminal industry in the world. It happens every day of the year in every state in America, to children as young as 11, right under our noses. Rob races to raise funds and awareness for this global tragedy. But finishing the Uberman race, known as the hardest triathlon ever, is no small feat. The race starts with a 21-mile swim from Catalina Island, then a 400-mile bike ride, and a 135-mile run through the Death Valley. I know what you're thinking. Is this guy insane? Perhaps, but anyone knows that without the proper mental and physical conditions, it would be insane to try it. But Rob knows that the Bacchetta Carbon Aero CA3, our top-of-the-line recumbent cycle, is the perfect combination of speed, comfort, and handling. It's broken 4 Race Across America records, and it allows Rob to ride for longer than any other racing bike, at greater speeds and with more physical ease. Rob chooses a bike that aims to consistently provide perfect physical conditions for racing so that he can focus on the cause most important to him and enjoy the thrill of the race. Follow Rob on his Uberman journey across California on his Bacchetta Carbon Aero CA3 at GoRobGo.com and contribute to ending human trafficking today. Further your cause today with Bacchetta Cycles. And a special announcement, the National Senior Games will now allow recumbent bikes and trikes to race. Go to Bacchetta.com now for information about rebates if you're interested in participating in these games and riding a Bacchetta cycle.
Okay, thank you, Mark Swanson, for sending us that cool video. Yes, the National Senior Games. We talked about the Senior Games a little bit earlier, and they have opened up. So wherever they are racing now, we can run our recumbent bikes in them, I believe just for time trials for now, but there may be individual variances. So check that out. And Larry, pop up that slide for me. Rob DeCou, you saw mentioned in that video, we'll be doing the Uberman race. So the pre-race kickoff is going to be via a Zoom meeting, October 7th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, as you can see there. So if you guys are interested in seeing what's going on there and maybe helping Rob out on this amazing, beautiful charity that he is running and riding for, I should say, please join that Zoom call and see how you can help Rob DeCou out on that. So, all right, thanks, guys. Let's move along then to our pal Doug, who worked very hard on this next video. Let's take a look at some velomobiles from Bicycle Evolution.
Long since banned because of their aerodynamic advantages, recumbent racing has struggled to find a foothold. Racing against bicycles, though, is not quite fair. And, well, heck, I've personally targeted races that specifically didn't have recumbents banned in the rules just to blow them away. And I felt like it was an achievement to find that the next year that race had banned recumbents. With velomobiles, the gap between regular bikes is even larger. Even on significantly hilly courses, a reasonably fit rider can expect to outperform their open-frame brethren. Realistically, comparing my side-to-side speeds, I'm going to climb 10 to 20% slower on a velomobile than, say, a Cruzbike or VTX or a carbon trike. However, my top end and down speeds downhill speeds can be more than double, sometimes even more than that on the right course. On a flat road, holding the mid-30s with 200 to 250 watts of power is quite achievable with modern racing velomobiles. We've seen such races as the Trans-American Bike Race, Sebring, Bessie's Creek, and others be totally dominated by velomobiles and fit riders. While these bikes are heavy, they more make up for it in their aerodynamics. At 15 miles an hour on a regular bike, you're putting more energy into pushing against the wind than against the ground. A recumbent changes that dynamic with its lower and more aerodynamic profile. A velomobile changes that even more. It's possible to achieve nearly double the speed you would on a regular bike in a velomobile with the same fitness level, putting out the same energy over the same amount of time. And that's something to recognize. The wall, well known for its maintainability, can be configured in a lightweight sportive model weighing less than 65 pounds. Coupled with a fully enclosed hood and fast tires, the wall it can be very sportive and fitting a rider from 4'11" to 6'7", which is what we're going to show you next. We have the wall behind me that fits this person at 4'11", and the wall behind that, which fits this nice gentleman at 6'7". That's the same bike fitting two people. That's the range of these bikes. This is the Intercity Bike DF. It's ready to roll, coming in at under 60 pounds. Its race-proven design has quick handling and can be improved by its optional wheel pants and race hood, making already a superb aerodynamic machine even faster. This is the Intercity Bike DFXL, the bigger brother than the DF, also race-ready at under 60 pounds. This bike is just a little bit larger, being 3 inches longer and 2 inches wider for those of us that need a little bit bigger bike. This is the Quest. The Quest comes in two sizes. The Quest and the Quest XS both coming in at under 80 pounds. The Quest has enclosed wheels for improved aerodynamics and a huge cargo area to help you carry what you need to win that endurance race. The Recumbent Milan comes in two sizes, the SL and the GT. Milans weigh in around 70 pounds, but have arguably the best aerodynamics of any velomobile in production today. Milan SLs have been clocked at over 60 miles an hour on flat roads and have done several sub 3 hour 100-mile centuries. The four-wheel Quattrovello, having huge cargo space and the ability to seat a child, isn't known for its top-end speed, but it's no slouch. The four wheels hold the ground like you're on rails, while the soft suspension eats up even the roughest chip seal. In fact, Quattrovellos are known to be so smooth that sometimes it's hard to even know that you have a flat. Even then, the ample cargo space will hold everything you need for that self-contained endurance race you're trying to win. This is the Alpha 7. It is currently the lightest production velomobile made today. Its minimalist design, weighing under 50 pounds, and race-proven aerodynamics is ready to pedal up or down, or even on the flats, as fast as you want to go.
Thank you, Doug. Great video, man. All right, let's move along to Catrike. We got a submission from Mark Egland, and it's mostly all about the iconic Catrike 700. Let's have a look.
The Catrike 700 has a deep racing heritage going back to our first Black Cat prototype in 2006. Racing at Bike Sebring to the human-powered Race America series, the 700 has always been in high demand on the racing circuits, or as a fun trike to have if you are a point A to point B type rider. So sit on the edge of your seat and learn more about the Catrike 700. The 700's unique design utilizes 7005 aluminum in a patented vertebrae space frame configuration that uses extra bracing on the seat and 12mm through-axle rear dropouts to provide greater torsional stiffness. effective power transfer is pronounced with our patented piece boom, carbon cranks, and additional gusseting on the front crossmember section. Another characteristic feature of the 700 is its race-oriented frame geometry. A low center of gravity and long wheelbase create an aerodynamic, laid-back riding position, lending to the 700's high-speed stability. The FSA hollow carbon crankset offers structured stiffness and minimal weight. Triple chain rings combined with the unidirectional carbon crank arms make it perform as good as it looks. With optimum performance and strikingly good looks, the AZUB BB7S brakes provide smooth modulated power and control. The user-friendly setup, adjustability, and stainless steel hardware give you confidence on any descent. The 700 features a contoured ergonomic seat mesh that has excellent breathability. The padded support in key areas provide comfort, stability, and power transfer. The Vision Trimax 30 disc rear wheel is perfect for going fast. The unique inner spoke milling helps reduce weight to increase acceleration and easier climbing. Combined with deep profile rims and arrow-bladed spokes, this hand-built wheel is ready to take you anywhere you want to ride or race. You can have any color you want as long as it's liquid black. Candy purple, lava red, atomic orange, firefly yellow, eon green, electric blue, or moonrock silver. Design and engineering are at the core of Catrike, and the 700 is a benchmark to exceptional design and performance. As part of this process, our engineers use finite element analysis, or FEA, to virtually test, evaluate, and revise designs. Starting with a geometric model, materials, external loads, fixtures, and connections are applied. A mesh simplifies the geometry and splits the parts into small elements, which allows the software to calculate results such as stress, displacement, strain, and factor of safety. Simulation is no substitute for real-world testing, and Catrike uses a specially designed test fixture to static and fatigue test critical parts. The 700, along with all Catrikes, is manufactured in our Orlando factory. We use the latest technology in our award-winning Catway manufacturing process to create the best performance trikes available. In addition to TIG welding, heat treating, and powder coating, we also build our wheels with our Holland Mechanics robotic wheel line. Catrikes are then pre-assembled and carefully packaged to be shipped to our professional dealers. The Catrike 700 will get your blood pumping the moment you lay eyes on it. This one-of-a-kind machine will not disappoint every time you mash on the pedals. If you are racing or want to enjoy a brisk, fast ride, this performance trike is the one for you. You can visit Catrike.com to find over 200 Catrike dealers where you can test ride this flying carpet.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And I hope you guys were paying close attention because Catrike has given us some prizes here we're going to talk about after this manufacturer segment. So I hope you were watching. All right, let's move along. Jim Parker from Cruzbike has sent us a video about a very fast two-wheeler that also is no slouch when it comes to racing. They've won many prizes that he's going to tell you about right now.
Hi, this is Jim with Cruzbike at BentCon 2020, here to talk about one of my favorite subjects. The Vendetta has a long history of shattering misconceptions, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so the engineering behind this bike, it has a patented drivetrain that was designed by John Tolhurst in Australia. This is the boom. We have the chainstay and the fork. They form a tetrahedron. A tetrahedron is one of nature's strongest, stiffest shapes. It's the same shape you find on a traditional road bike. Traditional road bikes have a beautiful drive system, very efficient. They're just not ergonomic and they're not aerodynamic. So this bike combines the best features of a road bike with an incredibly stiff and efficient drive system, a short drive chain, and the ergonomics of a recumbent and the aerodynamics of a speed racing laid back recumbent. So you got the best of all worlds with the Cruzbike V20. So Another thing that makes this bike so great is that the hydroform frame directly runs behind the backrest. So this is held up by the frame and not a clumsy adjustable seat stays. So that makes it more efficient, less wattage loss as you're pedaling up those hills. The design, just like a traditional bike, allows you to input power from the upper body. There's a direct connection between the upper body through the boom and the handlebars to the cranks, which you don't find on other recumbents. Now, what has this bike done in the last, say, 10 years or so since it's been racing? It has shattered so many records that I'll just name a few. Here's some highlights. 2013, Maria Parker, my wife, raced in Race Across America, solo division, and she won, and she set the record for her age group. Some people said, oh, you know, the naysayers are always saying, oh, it's not the bike, it's something else. So they said, it's not the bike, it's just Maria's just, you know, she can go without sleep. So we did the 4-person relay race across America, and we set the record there. That was a over 50 mixed category, and we beat the record held by a very strong group of riders from Bacchetta that was set in 2012. We took that record. We entered the Hoodoo 500. The first recumbent to ever even finish the Hoodoo 500 was a Cruzbike, and actually to this day, the only recumbent to ever finish the solo non-stage Hoodoo 500 are Cruzbike riders. Other people have tried, they haven't even finished it, and we hold the record for that. The stage version of Hoodoo 500, we hold by far the fastest finishing of the stage version of the Hoodoo 500. Texas Time Trials, a hilly time trial race in Texas. The record from the 26-mile record is held by a Cruzbike rider, up to the 500-mile is held by a Cruzbike rider. So we've got the records to back up what we're saying. This is the world's fastest practical road bike. Let's look in California, what Jason Perez did on his V20, winning races that are 200 miles long with 18,000 feet of climbing. Unheard of for a recumbent to even enter those races, but much less to win those races. We can look at track records set by Larry Osland on his bike, WUCA records, that's World Ultra Cycling Association. Many of the recumbent records are held by Cruzbikes. So we've got the stats, we've got the races, we've got the records to prove this is the world's fastest practical road bike, and would love you to join the Cruzbike community. We have this bike is available as a frame set, either from our dealers or directly from Cruzbike.com. And we'd love you to join the community and see you out there racing on a Cruzbike.
All right. Thank you, Jim Parker. Great video from Cruzbike, guys. A really great name in fast recumbents, if there ever was one. Briefly, let me just show. So this is Sandy Earle, also known as Red Pearl, one of the fine female racers, recumbent racers around. She's been on the show a few times, and I actually asked her to be on the panel this morning. But she was out racing the Natchez Trace, and apparently I got a little, you might have seen the earlier post from Lee Kreider, the host of the Ohio Rams show, who mentioned Sandy. And here's Sandy actually on her way home saying that she got the fastest female time on her Schlitter Freestyle. So, and that's a great racing bike as well. That is not represented in our manufacturers today, but just to let you know, there are other manufacturers as well. So we wanted to thank Sandy and congratulate her on that race. Okay, next up on the list is Tori Groen from Greenspeed. Let's have a look and see. I think I know which trike we're going to see there. Go ahead, Larry.
Hello, Bent Riders. Tori here from Greenspeed again with you, here to talk to you guys today about a really fast trike. What in the Greenspeed lineup is fast for those of you that have a need for speed. So today I'll be talking about the Aero, which has been deemed by many as the fastest trike in the world right now. May get some argument from some other folks, but you know, there's been a lot of discussion about what trike is the fastest, and this trike seems to still hold the crown. So let's get into some of the features and the design of this trike. Everything on this trike is designed to be very slippery and fast. So aerodynamics were key in the design, and as well as it being lightweight and being efficient. So a lot of these designs are taken from older Greenspeed models and kind of combining the best of those into one awesome platform for Greenspeed. So a lot of these things were taken from the old SLR race, which some of you may be familiar with. It's an old race trike from Greenspeed, and so this is basically the road going model of that. Start with the drivetrain. Comes equipped standard right now with Shimano 30-speed 105 drivetrain, and with Ultegra bar end shifters here that you can see. So just a really nice, smooth, and efficient drivetrain that a lot of us are familiar with. As far as making the trike Aero, we'll get into some of the things. One of them here is the flattened cross members. Now, normally you'll see on trikes that these outriggers here that hold the front wheels are round. On the Aero, they're flattened out, almost like airplane wings, and that is to reduce the drag of the trike. It actually supplies 1/10 of the drag of a round tube, so actually quite a bit more efficient than the round tubing in the front there with the outriggers. It's also got 16-inch front wheels. Not only is that done to kind of increase the agility and maneuverability of the trike, but also again to reduce the amount of drag. Smaller wheels in the front mean less drag, so you're going to go faster and be more efficient with each pedal stroke. Talking about the front wheels and just all the wheels in general, everything comes equipped standard with these carbon wheel covers, which again just reduces the drag of the wheels and increases your overall speed and efficiency on the trike. The hand position here, so this has some unique tank steering. It's just kind of joystick steering almost. So, and what that does is it keeps your elbows inside of the wheels of the trike and the frame of the trike to, again, reduce the drag, increase your efficiency. You see a unique seat angle here. That's something for the Aero. It's actually a fixed seat position. So the frame, the seat are all one piece to keep everything nice and stiff. It makes the trike very nimble, very easy to handle. But this is a 20-degree seat angle. So that means you're going to be very laid back, and as you can see here, and again, it lowers your body position, keeps you laid back to keep you more aerodynamic. It also comes with the Greenspeed Scorcher tires, which are claimed to be one of the fastest trike tires in the world. They're really supple, really soft, offer great handling, and have very little rolling resistance. So once you get them moving, you're going to keep them moving. So there's a couple things you can do with the Aero for those of you guys that really want to push out some serious wattage. And one of the things is swapping out that front chainring for a bigger one. The standard is 56 tooth, but we do have some larger ones available for the Aero, including an almost comical 80 tooth. So those of you guys that really get excited about pushing some big watts and big speed, this is for you. So all of this comes together at a really lightweight package, 31 pounds only, which is extremely lightweight for a trike. Especially this is still an aluminum frame trike, so offers some really nice compliance on the road. It's nice and soft and easy to handle still. And the Aero comes in at $4,490, and it's just a great package for all you guys that really have a big need for speed.
All right. Thank you very much, Tori. The Aero. So let's move along now. Thankfully, we have our one live guest in the studio, I believe. Heiko, are you there? Can you?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope the
Heiko,
microphone
hello.
will work. face some
You're
problems.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
perfect.
it sounds
Very good.
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You're good to go. This is a show about speed, and you
Just in
sped in
time,
just
yeah.
at the right time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over to you. And guys, we got a little slideshow to show you as well. Heiko, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everybody is safe and sound in these times. I was positively impressed by the panel discussion because coming up from the traditional upright bike segment, my experience is that when talking about fast bicycles, in almost any case, the discussion will turn into a talk about weight, weight, and weight again. Since HP Velotechnik puts a focus on highest versatility, we will never be known for building the lightest bike or trike. However, weight is only one factor for speed, and I would not even consider it as the most important. Let me illustrate that by an episode which Scorpion rider John Robert Denman shared with us. He was participating in a quite ambitious group ride. 3 riders with dedicated race trikes, I won't drop any names, set the pace, followed by a Scorpion rider who almost struggled to keep up at first. At a little under the 30-minute mark, however, the Scorpion took the lead until they were making a short break to assemble again and recover. By the second hour, the pace of the, quote, clearly fatigued race trike riders fell off while they were experiencing various pains from the ride, as John reported. The Scorpion had the lead during the rest of the ride, and in the end, the race trike riders even needed help lifting their trikes into the cars, while, quote, the older, slightly less fit Scorpion rider needed no help at all. How can this be explained? Well, besides weight as a simple measurable number, efficiency is playing a major role here. This means how efficient can your pedaling power be transformed into propulsion. On one hand, this is supported by our very stiff and robust aluminum frames. We had this discussion in the chat. These are constructed for the highest payloads. Under the aspect of gaining speed, this means that your pedal force is not getting absorbed and wasted by bending the frame. On the other hand, the moving parts of a frame construction, the suspension system, are constructed under principles of our no-squat technology. This sophisticated design avoids the problem of the drivetrain and suspension influencing each other. With a less elaborate suspension system, each pedal stroke will lead to unwanted movement in the chassis, which ends up wasting power with every mile. Of course, suspension is adding weight, but as we saw from the initial episode, the additional comfort has the potential to make you way faster over any distance. And furthermore, suspension improves road adherence as well as obstacle rollover capability. The latter especially in combination with a larger 26-inch rear wheel. This is why, except for our Gecko Trike series, all our models come with suspension. Talking about our fastest models now, the Speed Machine comes in first place among our two-wheelers. Available with rear and optional front suspension, the low seating position of the Speed Machine grants 2 major advantages. Under aerodynamic aspects, it minimizes air resistance. Under efficiency aspects, the raised relative height of the bottom bracket to the seat, which is typical for sporty recumbents, allows your leg power to unfold in the best way possible. The effect is biggest when choosing our low position BodyLink hardshell seat, which in addition gives best support when pushing hard. The same applies to our non-foldable Scorpion, the lightest model of our premium trike series. Doing without folding hinge and front suspension, it saves a significant share of weight while still being comfortable and providing excellent traction due to its rear suspended chassis with a large 26-inch rear wheel. Configured in the naked version, as we see here, the sporty touring machine works well as a real long-distance racer. Last but not least, one of our full suspension Scorpions can even claim to be the fastest trike of its kind. The Scorpion FS26 S pedelec, with its electric assistance up to 45 kilometers per hour or 28 miles per hour, counts as the fastest electric trike under European legislation. Of course, with the additional weight of the motor and all the necessary equipment needed to ride in public traffic, it's not really lightweight, but you will hardly be able to go faster so easily. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and thanks, Gary. Bye.
Heiko, a pleasure as always, my friend. Have a good evening there in Germany. Thank you for joining us, and we will, I think, see you again next week.
Of course, definitely.
All right, pal. You take care of yourself, and thanks.
Bye.
All right, folks, let's move along. The next up is going to be Ice Trikes. Again, this is one of our prize giveaways, so pay close attention to what Patrick is about to tell you about this Ice Trike VTX.
Hello, welcome back to the Ice Trike stand at BentCon 2020. My name's Patrick, and today we're going to be talking you through the Ice VTX. Today's show is all about fast riding and racing, and the VTX is the current world champion in both the men's and the women's divisions, proving itself time and again to be the fastest trike in the world. So the VTX is a low, reclined and narrow trike, making it super fast and super aero. It's been stripped of some of the features and options that our other trikes have in order to hit that lightweight and make it even more aerodynamic. So it has fixed handlebars, non-adjustable, and it doesn't have the option of suspension, and it also doesn't fold. The VTX has a racing pedigree and lineage stretching back decades, all the way to the micro and the monster of the early 2000s. In fact, we won our first world championship all the way back in 2001, and we've won many more since. Most recently, Mathieu Leroux won the 2018 and 2019 world championships back-to-back for the unfaired multi-track class. We'll hear more from him later. So the main thing to consider for a racing trike is of course speed, and the VTX has more than proved itself in that field. But also, to go fast for a long time, you need a trike that's comfortable and has fantastic handling. We've spent many years honing the design of the steering, the seat, and the frame to isolate you from road vibrations, making this the best handling trike on the market, allowing it to not just handle the tight corners and twisty descents, but really turn them into a joy that puts that trike grin on your face. The ultimate racing trike, in our opinion, is our VTX World Championship Edition. This exclusive trike has its specification based on the very same spec that Mathieu Leroux used to win his World Championships. Here to talk you through some of those features is Matt himself. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, I'm Mathieu Leroux, and I won the World Championships in the unfaired multi-track class in 2018 and 2019 in Kent and in Nandau in France as well. So one of the key features on the VTX World Championship Edition is the use of Shimano Ultegra Di2 shifting. It has a feature called Synchro Shift. It allows you to shift up all the way through the gears with one button and down with another button. And it decides when to shift on the front and rear. It's really nice to ride, and it's a very clever system. The battery has excellent life, and you just plug it in once a month maybe and charge it. It seems to last for quite a few miles. So the Di2 uses these neat little bar end shifters which integrate the brake levers as well. I chose these to go with the 70mm drum brakes on the World Championship Edition. I think they've got really good stopping power. They're really smooth, completely silent, and they're just completely maintenance free as well, so excellent for a race weekend. When I'm racing, I like to have my hands in a bit more of an aerodynamic position, so the World Championship Edition has the handlebars cut down slightly just to lower your hands. It also features a nice little aerodynamic mirror, which is a bit smaller and a bit more hidden out of the airflow than on a normal trike. And to make it feel a bit more special, the trike's splashed with a few little details which just highlight that it is the World Championship Edition to make yours stand out from everyone else's, including a gold leaf head badge. And thanks for having me on the show. I'll hand you back to Patrick now.
Thank you for talking us through that, Matthew. Good luck with next year's championships. I'll be the one in your rearview mirror watching you disappear over the horizon, I'm sure. A machine as extreme as the VTX isn't going to be for everyone. For those people who want the speed, but also a bit more practicality, I'd always recommend our Sprintex race model. It features the same wheels, the same seat, and the same drivetrain options as the VTX, but it features the more practical frame of the Sprintex Tour. So you have the suspension options, and you also have the fold available, as well as adjustable handlebars and other little details like that that just up the practicality level that little bit. As with every trike purchase, with a racing trike, we'd recommend that you visit one of our local dealers and pick the right trike for you based on what really fits you and suits the riding you're planning to do. We have about 250 dealers worldwide, so you're sure to find one near you. If you visit our website, www.icetrikes.co, you'll find all of our dealers and also the contact page where you can send us any questions you might have after this video is over. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of the show.
And thank you, Patrick. Great job, folks. So, yep, hope you paid attention to that one. And we're going to go on to our last video. It is my pal Marshall Randall from TerraTrike. And again, folks, these guys have some good prizes coming up. So both ice trikes and here on TerraTrike as well. Pay close attention. All right, Marshall, take it away.
Performance mindset for TerraTrike. What we brought today is the TerraTrike Spider. It's stiffer and aerodynamic where it needs to be for acceleration and sustained speeds, yet compliant for comfort. It also features a ton of premium Shimano components. So to that, let's just kind of jump right into that and go to the front of the trike. At the front, you'll see the Shimano 105 crankset. It's a double crankset. Shimano 105 bottom bracket. Shimano 105 derailleur. And they're all mounted to a brand new boom design specifically for the Spider. Moving back a little bit, we can talk about the frame. It does feature our Y frame design, and it's a little bit different in that it's a lot lower than all of our other models, again, to keep that aerodynamic in mind. Speaking of that, the front end is made out of 6000 series aluminum, and the rear triangle is made out of 7000. The reason for that goes to one of those very first statements, stiffer and aerodynamic where it needs to be, and compliant for comfort. Moving back up front, the Spider's going to come with a lot of different accessory mounts, and I won't get into those at this time. This one still has one mounted right here on the steer tube at the handlebar area, so that's kind of neat to see. But it does have Shimano Dior hydraulic brakes. There's some other hydraulic brakes on the market, but not many. That's a big upgrade from the cable actuated brakes. They're an easier brake to modulate. It's got a softer feel to it. Doesn't take as much effort to gain that braking power. You'll also notice some aero rims. These are TerraTrike proprietary aero rims. They're aluminum, and they also are laced up to the new TerraTrike alloy hubs. Moving on up the handlebars, we talked about the brakes. Let's talk about the shift levers. They're bar end shifters, not the grip shifts or trigger shifters. Really fits well with this package, slimming down this whole area, opening this cockpit up a little bit. Let's talk about the seat. This is TerraTrike's new sport seat, brand new for this model and the GT. The sport seat has a new seat pan, and then you'll notice as you come up the seat back, you'll see that there's a joint right here, so it gives you some adjustability to this shoulder pad area, and we'll have a headrest available for this as well. You'll notice that this seat doesn't have TerraTrike's seat stays, for adjustability. It is hard mounted, fixed with a through bolt here at the top of the frame, as well as right underneath the seat pan, making for a very solid connection to the frame. It works very well with that frame. Unlike the other TerraTrike seats where there's just the mesh underneath you, you'll see this is a padded mesh, has this cutout area here for ventilation, but yet again a little bit of lateral support with this extra padding, and a little bit of a bolster right here in the middle of the seat. Again, just giving you a little bit more support as you're negotiating those higher speed turns, if you will, on this trike. So again, we'll just kind of move towards the back of the frame here, and you'll see that it has a new TerraTrike proprietary pulley, seal bearing pulley inside of there. And then the Shimano XT rear derailleur, premium component, with a 10-speed wide range cassette. And then you'll see it has a 26-inch wheel. Again, we're going 26 over 20 and 24, just because this is kind of the speed machine, if you will. And it features a through axle rather than your conventional quick release, which makes for a very solid connection here to the rear triangle. Again, that whole rear triangle designed and built for better transmission of energy to make this efficient and fast. I also need to point out that the Spyder has a stablemate called the ATC, which is just chock full of carbon fiber components. So with the Spyder, you have two different levels of componentry that you can choose from. We think that the Spyder is going to be the best-selling one out of those two, and so that's why I want to feature this today, which I think dollar for pound, oh man, this has got to be the #1 performance trike on the market at this time. So to that, I want to thank everybody for viewing this. Thank you.
All right, Marshall, thank you, pal. That was great. All right, guys, let's move along to our third segment then, which is the prize giveaway. Let me tell you about the rules. We'll start out there. I told you about who was offering the prizes. So I'll tell you that again in a second. First of all, you need to answer the question that I'm going to ask for each of these manufacturers, and we're going to give you a little bit more of a chance give more of a chance to the folks who watch after the live webcast here this week. You have until Wednesday, October 7th at midnight to email these manufacturers with the answers to the question to be eligible for the prizes I'm going to announce. Now, once you've emailed them, they will pick random winners selected from the emails with correct answers to the questions I'm going to ask. Anyone associated with BentCon 2020 is not eligible, and especially Larry Varney is not eligible. I'm sorry, Larry. That was just to preempt him saying he was eligible. All right, now last week, the big winner was Alan Baker. Patrick from ICE told me that Alan Baker was the winner of the $100 gift coupon from ICE, and ICE is going to give away another one of those right here in a minute. So those are the rules, guys. Let's go ahead and put that thank you very much for the background. I am going to copy and paste our first question right here into the comments. And there we go. And let me show it here. There we go. So Ice Trikes, it is, as I mentioned, a $100 gift card. There's just one that's going to be given away. You need to email the answer to the question I'm about to ask to sales@icetrikes.co. And as I noted there in this comment, be very careful, not .com, it's .co. All right, here's the question. In what years did Matthew Leroux win a world championship on the ICE VTX? In what years did Matthew win that? In what years did Matthew win those world championships on the ICE VTX? All right, you guys got that? While you're looking at that, I'm about to do our prize number 2. And let me paste it here and post it. And here we go with prize number 2. This is from Catrike. These are t-shirts, and Catrike is giving away 10 of them. And you're going to need to email your answers to info@catrike.com. info@catrike.com. Email your answer to this question to them. What Henry Ford quote was paraphrased in the Catrike 700 video? What Henry Ford quote was paraphrased in the Catrike 700 100 video. So to have a look at that, think it over, and email them. Again, these need to be to them by October 7th at midnight. And they're going to pick from among the correct answers. They're going to randomly pick the answers. Okay, and now finally, prize number 3, I should say prizes from our pals at TerraTrike. And this is a little bit different. So now out of the correct answers, the first pick that they pick will get a TerraTrike jersey. So that's really nice. And then the next picks from the correct answers, the next 10 picks will get TerraTrike socks. So if you're interested in that, winning that prize, you need to email your answers to marketing@TerraTrike.com. Marketing@TerraTrike.com. And now here's the question. What sort of metal is used for the rear triangle frame on the TerraTrike Spider? That all didn't fit on there. It's the TerraTrike Spider. So what sort of metal is used in that rear triangle on the frame of the TerraTrike Spider? All right, guys. So that is those are the 3 questions, I should say. We thank very much ICE and Catrike and TerraTrike for donating those prizes, and we wish you all the best of luck. And we'll announce some of those winners anyways on next week's BentCon. So good luck to you all. Okay, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here by starting out by thanking once again our wonderful retail recumbent bike shop sponsors. They are Angletech and Bent Revolution, Bent Up Cycles, Bicycle Evolution, The Bicycle Man, Connecticut Yankee Peddler, Easy Street Recumbents Austin, and Easy Street Recumbents in Fort Worth, and The Hostel Shop, Jersey Bents, Laidback Cycles, Lancaster Recumbent, Trailside Trikes, and Recumbent PDX. Thank you so much to those wonderful sponsors who make BentCon 2020 possible. All right, announcements. We have one more BentCon to do. It is going to be the Accessories and Resources show, and that will be coming up next Sunday at 2 p.m. That will be 2 p.m. Eastern time, of course, as always, October 11th, next Sunday. So we hope you'll join us for that. We're going to have another great show with lots of interesting accessories and resources to show you guys. All right, our next regular show will be October 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's Winning Back Your Health with a Recumbent. So we hope you'll join us for that show. Now, let's tell you one more time how you can support the Laidback Bike Report so we can continue doing BentCon 2020 and all the other sorts of webcasts and events that we bring to you. Please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and click that little I right there. Head over to our website and learn lots more about us, including how to become a Patreon patron like you see these guys right here have done for as little as $1 a month. Right down here, if you're on YouTube, you'll see an applaud button. If you want to help us out while you're watching, you can throw a couple bucks our way by doing that as well. So thank you for all of you who have supported the Laidback Bike Report up until now. And for those who just watch, we love all of our viewers and all of our supporters. So thanks a lot for that. All right, guys, let's bring everyone back on stage, whoever is left. And great job. Heiko was the only one of the manufacturers brave enough to come on live, and he did another great job. I saw that Hansa mentioned on a comment that you should have been allowed a couple of more minutes since you were at a disadvantage. So I don't know. We'll think about that. But I thought you did a great job in the time that you had, Heiko. So thank you once again. And crew, Larry and Trey, fantastic job. As always, we really appreciate great switching. I thought the videos came out great. And Larry, sorry we didn't have a chance, Larry Varney, to talk too much. I did get to exclude you from the prizes, so it was probably worth it just to do that. And Peter and Doug, thank you so much for all you lent to that great panel discussion at the beginning. So we appreciate all you guys, and we will see most of you next week. So thanks to the panel, thanks to the guests, but most of all, thanks to all of you for watching this week's BentCon 2020. So until our next BentCon 2020, from all of us here at the Laidback Bike Report, so long, Bent Riders.